I really started literally just with piano like this one, which you should be able to hear now.
Yeah, I can.
Yep. But the thing that I love about it the most is like the orchestra sounds. I wanted to have like a bit of the electronic edge to this song, as well as like all the beautiful strings and movement and stuff like that. Don't feel bad about calling yourself a producer. If you produce music, there is a sense of often unspoken kind of camaraderie amongst women in this industry. No production police are going to come and be like, you're not a real producer because you haven't done X, Y, Z. As soon as I just said, I'm a producer, all of these walls came down and I felt so much more confident in my skill, to the point where all this pent up energy and pent up like production prowess that I'd been working on unknowingly over the years resulted in a completely self-produced EP, which ended up being my debut EP. It just turned out to be so much better than I thought it was going to be. Like, the people were so open to the idea that I'd made it myself. And I'm so proud because I know how to do that and I'm not afraid. And now everyone knows, like, Eilish Gilligan, she's a producer too. Like,
I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm speaking with you today, and pay my respects to their elders past and present, as well as any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander peoples today or who might be listening to this in the future. My name's Tess. I'm the host of Unpacked. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm very stoked today to be joined by Eilish Gilligan. Thank you so much for coming to have a chat with me.
hello, thank you so much for having me. My pronouns are she, her as well, just so you know.
Awesome. Thank you. Yay. And how's your day been?
It's been hectic. It's been so hectic, but it's been good. I've had lots of like admin stuff to do today, but then I had a coffee with a friend for like 2 hours and did a much needed like decompression kind of rant vent situation, which was great. And I've also had like 3 coffees, so I'm really like
ready to go.
I'm very ready to go.
Amazing. I'm very excited because Eilish was showing me just before we got started a bunch of her stems that she's going to take us through for one of her tracks, which is just a heart melting banger. Totally devastating, would very much recommend. But before we get into that, I'd love to chat a little bit about just how you got started and where production kind of came in for you in terms of, did songwriting come first, or was it all about Ableton, or how did that all eventuate?
It's so funny because I have honestly been a producer for as long as I've been a songwriter, and I never called myself a producer until maybe like a year and a half ago, maybe.
Really?
Yeah, because
Wow.
I had all these ideas of what a producer was and who's allowed to produce and like who's allowed to call themselves a producer. Obviously, none of them applied to the rest of the world. All of them just applied to me. It was just
Yeah.
like, okay, well, you're not allowed to call yourself a producer until you can like make a beat that sounds like this. And then it's like, okay, well, you're not allowed to call yourself a producer unless you've like produced for somebody else and like blah blah blah. I feel like I was so mean to myself about like mean as in nasty, but mean as in stingy as well. Like I was so
Mm.
mean about the word producer. I just would not let myself use it to describe myself. And then all of a sudden I kind of reflected back. I think it maybe started when I was doing co-writing sessions and I was like looking at all the stuff that other people were doing in those sessions and they were calling themselves producers. And I was like, I do all of that. I've done that for years. Like I've done that since, year 10 when I first got like a computer that had Pro Tools on it.
Mm.
And I was just like, you know what? I think I can just call myself one. I don't think anyone's gonna like no production police are gonna come and be like, you're not a real producer because you haven't done X, Y, Z. Um, and as soon as I started being like, I am a producer, which was a very hard, it was so, I don't know why it was so difficult, but it really just was. As soon as I just said, I'm a producer, all of these walls came down and I felt so much more confident in my skill to the point where all this pent up energy and pent up like production prowess that I'd been working on unknowingly over the years resulted in a completely self-produced EP, which ended up being my debut EP. So it's like just like right off the bat, just don't feel bad about calling yourself a producer if you produce music. If you self-produce your own music, you're a producer. If you're like arranging sounds constructively, using, you know, whatever tools you have at your disposal, you're a producer. It's honestly that simple. And I'm still quite annoyed at myself that I like deprived myself of that title that I deserved all those years because I feel like I really got in my own way in terms of like working for other people and standing up for myself when it comes to like when I was in bands or when I was like, you know, getting feedback on demos and things like that, just from anyone. I feel like I should have spent so much more time being confident in my abilities to produce music, instead of being like, oh, I don't know, like I'm just an artist, like I'm just a songwriter or whatever, which are great, both great things to be, by the way. Like I'm very proud to be both of those things. But as soon as I was like, yes, I'm going to call myself a producer now, I've been working long enough at it that I can finally, you know, embrace the term, everything changed. So I highly recommend it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so great to hear just like right off the bat. I feel like that, like hearing that makes me feel like super empowered. So
Yeah,
it's really
good.
good.
You should.
For sure. And I love that concept of, there's no arbitrary producer police that are going to come along and be like, "No, not you." Like
Yeah.
everyone else who does the things that you're doing, they can be producers, but not you.
There's enough policing and there's enough like obstacles in the way for any artist, but particularly like a non-male artist. Like there's just enough to contend with in this world without the additional cruelty that we like treat ourselves with. And that's something that I really struggle with. Like I talk to myself so poorly, and I think a lot of artists and creative people and a lot of ambitious and driven people do that as well. And I think there's like some element to it that's good because it keeps me on my toes and it keeps me working really hard. But I do think that it's just not helpful in that sense because there's already people that will tell you that you can't do things, and there's already people that are like here to kind of gatekeep like it's their one job. So like why would you do it to yourself as well? It's ridiculous. It makes no sense.
Yeah, can already outsource that to the patriarchy, so it's
Right?
fine. Yeah, wow, that's super interesting. Was there anything like in particular that really just kind of did it for you in the end? Like any particular moments where you were like, oh, actually, yeah, I'm just a producer. Hey.
I mean, I definitely think the songwriting sessions like that I started doing a couple of years ago, I think they definitely helped because you see other people doing these things and you kind of go like, oh, well, I can do that. I know how to do that. I am currently doing that with my own music and blah, blah, blah. So it was definitely that, I think, that kind of spurred me on to be like, it's actually silly that I'm like gatekeeping this term for myself. Um, it literally affects no one if I call myself a producer. It's like, it just makes no difference to anyone. So I might as well just do it. I also think like I got more confident with the term when I started producing my own stuff, like making demos that I was like, you know what, this actually feels like not a demo anymore. This feels like what the song should be, you know? And then that kind of went in conjunction at the same time I was working on other people's songs. I was producing for other people too. So you can't produce for other people without calling yourself a producer. There's no semantic way to get around that kind of thing.
Yep.
So like at that point, if you want to be producing for other people, you have to embrace that term. And I'm so glad that I did, because I think it opened up a lot of doors for me in terms of like working for other people. And that's an avenue that I'm so excited to explore more this year. Like I only really just started doing that in the second half of 2020. So like I will say that that is a new thing for me, to produce other people's work, or co-produce other people's work, like whatever it is for whatever artist it is. But that really helped me embrace that terminology too, because it was like, well, there's no denying this is what it is. It's not like the song's written and you're helping put it together. That's producing. Like,
yeah,
just say it.
Yeah, and are you allowed to talk about any of the people that you've been working with, or any of the projects and songs you've been doing?
I worked with an artist called Rosie Jones last year.
Oh, cool.
And she's brilliant. She has such a clever ear and a really unique, like, lyrical style that I really admire. And she's just great. And I really am quite thankful to her, because I'd never really produced for anyone else before. And she was just like, I really like your music and I really like, your vibe, and I would love to have your production input on this. So we co-produced a few of her songs for her EP, which I'm pretty sure is coming out this year. And I'm really happy with that work. That was really, really great. So that was like kind of the main project that I was working on last year. But I'm really hoping that 2021 like kind of opens that door even wider for me. And it was really special, like, to work with Rosie too, because she was so it's really lovely to work with like another woman in this industry. I always really cherish that experience, because I do feel that there is a sense of often unspoken kind of camaraderie amongst women in this industry. So that was really special. So I'm hoping to do more of that in general in 2021, but specifically more production work for anyone,
Nice. Oh, it sounds really exciting. I'd love to hear what your production sound would be like for other artists and other songwriters. I think that's going to be great to hear.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but I think the result is really cool.
Oh, nice. And just kind of taking things back, like right to the beginning, you mentioned that you're in year 10, was it, when you started producing and songwriting kind of at the same time? What kind of tools were you using at that point?
So I've always played piano. I played piano since I was like 6, and that was always my thing. And I only really kind of realized that I could sing when I was in year 7, and I'd like gotten this music scholarship to this school that I was going to, and they gave me one free music lesson for that. And I was going to do sax, but then I decided to do singing instead for some reason that I can't remember. And then I was doing piano outside of school. So I think I started writing when I was maybe like 15 or 16, and a song that I'd written won some competition, like some local competition or something like that. And the prize was like, I think it was something like $3,000 to spend at the local music store.
Oh, amazing.
It was really, it was literally, it was quite literally life-changing, because back then you could buy a Mac for like $1,500, and it was like really, it was perfectly suitable for like making music. Like it's a bit different now with Macs. They're a lot more expensive, but back then I was able to buy a MacBook. I got a microphone, and I got a little Mbox audio interface, and that was when I started in Pro Tools, because it came with the Mbox. And looking back, I mean, back then Pro Tools was the real thing. Like back in the 1920s when I was in year 10, that was like the real program that everyone was kind of using, and it was the one that was recommended to me. So that was really good, because I got my fingers around Pro Tools, and that, like, I was just addicted to like making, writing, and uploading songs. And I went through a real phase for about maybe like 4 years across like year 11 and 12, and then into like first and second year uni, where I was making a lot of like what I liked to call sound art. I'm really not sure what you would call it now. Probably just uh an abomination, probably. But it would be like these real textural kind of atmospheric kind of pieces, and I would like take a lot of samples. I used to voice record people all the time and manipulate the recordings and then put them into these like worlds of noise and kind of spooky sounds and stuff like that. And I used to make like a kind of a visual physical component to it. Like I did a lot of like installation work.
It sounds awesome.
It was cool. Like, I mean, it's hysterical now because it's like, I don't know really what my point was. I
Doesn't
guess.
have to have one. It's fine. It's art.
It doesn't really have one, I guess. But I think the good thing about all of that stuff was that I really experimented with the plugins that I had, and I didn't have many because I just had like the Pro Tools or whatever. The ones that came with Pro Tools were pretty good. I like got my little head around them and just knew what I wanted, and like never did anything properly, just kind of like well, not I never mixed anything, like got it mixed or like whatever. Sure. So that was kind of like, I would write these little pop songs, but then I would also make these like very ambitious kind of sound art installation things too. And I think both of them together, like I got this great understanding of pop songwriting, because I just love pop music. It's my first and kind of only love. And then when it came to like the technicalities of like using Pro Tools as a creative or using a DAW as like a creative outlet, that's where the kind of sound art stuff came in. And I switched over to Logic when I went into uni, and then I switched over to Ableton when I was in the last year of university, because by that time everyone was using Ableton and everyone was like, you gotta get on Ableton. And I was like, all right. So I did. And I kind of miss Logic. Like last week in Song Hubs, I was working with G Flip and Odette, and G Flip is so proficient in Logic, and I was just like, oh, like I miss Logic because it's really it's just so good for creativity. Like you can make something so quickly in it, whereas with Ableton it's great for live. And I like producing in Ableton. It's like my main DAW now, but I do miss the quickness, like the speed of Logic, and I loved that in uni because I could just make things so quickly and they could be as weird and ridiculous as I wanted, and it just kind of was out, like the creative process was very fast, but whatever.
Yeah, it sounds like they've each got their pros and cons for different settings, maybe.
Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah.
And are there any other DAWs that you've heard of that you think are quite useful, or anything else that people might want to get into?
I don't know. I can't remember. I was talking about this with another friend of mine the other day, but there was a brief period, I reckon around 2014, 2015, where I used Reason for beat making specifically. But I'm pretty sure that Reason, I'm like having a blank, but I'm pretty sure you can use it within like Ableton now. It's like you can like use it as an inbuilt plugin rather than like a completely different DAW, which I think is really cool. Because Reason was really good for that. Like building a beat on Reason, I seem to recall, I haven't done it for years and years and years, but it was like really kind of straightforward, which like beat building has always been like my greatest challenge. Like I'm not a percussionist, I'm not a drummer. I just do it from listening to pop music and instinct and things like that. And I'm always looking for something, like I'm always looking for a way to make that easier for myself. So yeah, Reason was really good for that, but I think I've cycled through them all pretty much. I've never used Cubase, but I do know a lot of my friends use Cubase for tracking and for mixing.
Oh, interesting.
Which I have never really I've never used Cubase myself. But yeah, I've kind of like over the years, it's weird how you kind of cycle through them. And looking at Logic last week, I was just like, oh my God, I want Logic again. Logic was so good. But yeah, I'm an Ableton tragic at the moment though. I do love Ableton, and I've found it to be the most enduring DAW relationship that I've had thus far.
Longest term.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I also feel like moving in with Ableton at this point. It's a good time.
Right?
Yep, it's a real nice time. Can we talk a little bit about the EP? That's awesome that it was your first like fully self-produced piece of work. That's extremely exciting. What's the reception been like?
It's been so good. I feel like so basically what happened in 2020, obviously 2020 was just like a ridiculous year. Like everyone's plans were turned on their heads. Nothing went the way that anyone thought it was going to go, and my life and career was no different. Basically, my plan for 2020 was that I was going to release this like extremely pop EP that I have like coming up this year now. Well, not extremely pop, but like just a real kind of bit of a big swing for me kind of thing. And the songs are really good, got some really strong co-writes, and I'm just so excited about it. But that was meant to come out last year. And in fact, it was meant to come out around mid-year last year. And the reason it was so delayed was because we had a few production, like producer changes. And then when we finally found the right producer, they were in Sydney and I was in Melbourne, and then we went into lockdown. So I couldn't get to Sydney to finish this, I shouldn't say stupid EP, finish this EP for months and months and months. I was meant to finish it in July, and I didn't get to finish it, or at least start finishing it, until November, which just completely threw everything out. But my plan for 2020 was big swing pop EP, and then surprise piano EP after that. And I'd not thought any further ahead than, oh, I'd really like to do like a piano-based EP, just for my own just for my own enjoyment, basically. But, you know, I'll put it out so people can hear it. But I was so focused on this first EP that I kind of didn't even really think about it. But then when July came around and the lockdown was announced, and I knew that there was just no way I was going to get to Sydney before, you know, I mean, I thought I was going to get there maybe at the end of August, maybe October, but then I just didn't get there until November. So it was just, you know, completely out of the question that EP was going to drop last year. As soon as I realized that, I was like, okay, I'm on my own. I have nowhere to go. All my jobs, like I lost one of my jobs, and I still have one of my other jobs, but that's, you know, teaching via Zoom. So I have all this time. I'm just going to do that piano EP. I'll just do that. I'll fill my days with that. Yeah. And I'll feel like I'm being productive and I'm getting better at production and like blah, blah, blah. Great vibe. I'll just do that. And it turned out like, I was just like, I just want to put it out as a surprise drop, all the songs at once, like no PR, no nothing, like just put it out. Like, why not? I don't understand why we have to like go through the whole rigmarole of like whatever. This is so different for me. It sounds like nothing I've ever done before, really, and it's self-produced, so it's really like quite intimate, and I just want it to come out. And my team were just like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to give it like a proper thing. We're going to do singles, and we're going to do the proper lead up and roll out and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, all right, okay. And it just turned out to be so much better than I thought it was going to be. Like the reception, people were so open to it, and they were so open to the idea that I'd made it myself and I'd produced it myself and I'd written it all myself. There's one song that's a co-write, but the rest of it was all self-written, and the whole thing's self-produced. And people were I was so surprised, because I was just like, this is such a weird move for me. This is my debut EP. This is not what should be Well, it's not that it wasn't what should be my debut EP. It's just that it was so unexpected as a bit of a real like, whoa, that is like not what we thought that was going to be for her first collection of music, but okay. Um, but I really stand by that EP because I really believe that I'm a good producer. I've gone through such a journey to get there. Um, I'm really it was like almost a self-sabotaging thing that I was saying to my team, like, no, 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 surprise drop, no PR, no nothing. It was like I didn't think um it was worth promoting or worth telling people about or worth like giving a proper EP rollout to because I was like, oh, it's just self-produced, like it's just me or whatever. But I'm so glad that they were like, no, 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 this is really good music. Let's give it a proper thing because now looking back on that whole campaign, I'm so proud because I did it all myself. I did it all by myself. There was no like helping. And now everyone knows like Eilish Gilligan, she's a producer too. Like she produced that whole EP. Remember that one, you know? And the songs have really connected with people. And I knew from the outset that it wasn't going to be like a radio EP. Like I knew that. Like I'm under no illusion. And I was like, gee, I wonder if that's going to still mean that people hear it and that people connect with it and people care about it. But the most special thing in the world is that they do, you know? And I think that was just so affirming for me. And to feel like I did a show at the corner and it was pretty much sold out. Like, you know, COVID restrictions, but still.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congrats.
And I'm so proud of myself for that too, because it was literally just like I didn't have any band members. It was just me by myself. And to also set up the live show myself was another huge kind of achievement that I'm really also proud of. So the whole thing was just, I thought it was going to go one way. I thought I was just going to drop it and people would care about it for a day and then like, you know, whatever, everyone would move on. But it wasn't that. It was like a really special rollout and I'm really proud of like every single moment of it. And I think it's been a really positive experience for me as a songwriter and a producer. And I'm doubly excited now for this big swing pop EP to come out.
Yeah.
Because it demonstrates my strengths as like kind of a like I have an ability to write this really intimate, soft, vulnerable music, but I can also write a really strong pop song as well. And I think that I'm excited for the world to understand that about me because I feel like a lot of people think that I'm one particular way, and I would like to show people that I am many things, not just one or two little things, you know?
Cannot be put into a box.
Yeah.
Excellent. That sounds extremely exciting. I think that's really good as well. I think a lot of songwriters would probably love to hear that story of yours because I think there's so much pressure to make music which is just radio friendly music and for the purpose of like getting on sort of Triple J, Triple R, or like, you know, more commercial radio. So that's actually, I think that's like fantastic to just hear that story of how, you know, you made this thing and it connected with your audience and people absolutely did listen to it and care about it and connect with it as like a body of work rather than just as like something that's like a single that you hear kind of banging along on the radio.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, very exciting. Also, I understand that Twitch became a big part of things for you in terms of being able to connect with your audience. How did that eventuate? Like, how did you start using it, and how did it develop?
Yeah, well, Twitch was interesting because I liked Twitch, and I have always kind of I've known about Twitch for a couple of years now and been a fan of streamers on the platform for ages. I love drag, and there's a huge world of like Twitch drag queens, and
Awesome.
it's so colorful and so beautiful and so full of queens that you would never get to see on like Drag Race, you know? And That's what I kind of went to Twitch for, to see all this great drag for free. You know, it's amazing. So I knew about Twitch, and then it became apparent that there's like a huge, a growing music community on Twitch. And about the time when I started, they just introduced like a music tab onto the homepage. So it's a really, really new community. It's a pretty big community, but it's definitely small in comparison to what you normally see on Twitch, which is like video game streaming. So I think my first stream was on like the 2nd of May or something like that in 2020. And I didn't know if it was going to be like a full term, like something that I wanted to do after Corona or whatever. But I mean, none of us knew how long Corona was going to go for in May. And we still don't really know, to be honest. But I started streaming, and I connected with a lot of kind of people on there, not in the music community. I connected with one of my favorite drag queens of all time, whose name is Granny, and she's just literally a grandmother. And she kind of became a bit of a mentor figure for me, and I've learned a lot about the practice of streaming, like regardless of what the content is, like things like, you know what, have a schedule, stick to it, don't change it. Here's how you talk to the chatters. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. Like really, by watching her and learning from her, I learned how to relate to my community. And it's become such a fulfilling part of my practice for me, because not only is it, I think I'm not doing a very good job of explaining what Twitch actually is. But I might
mystical.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Actually, no, I'll explain what it is. So basically, Twitch is a video game streaming platform, and it started out just purely for people to stream themselves playing video games, and that's predominantly what it is now still. But there's so many other beautiful niche communities on Twitch. So there's drag, there's makeup, there's fitness, where people stream themselves like doing workouts and you can follow along. There's like tarot reading, there's like crafting, there's literally anything you can think of. People film themselves sleeping and live stream it. Like anything you can think of is present on this platform. And there's people who want to watch it. And so there's a music community on Twitch, and I think Twitch have made over the last like 18 months a pretty directed decision to focus in on the music community on Twitch and kind of uplift them, and like, because they've realized this is like a really great platform. Like Hannah, who's played with Grimes before, is a huge streamer on Twitch. T-Pain is a huge streamer on Twitch. They make music on the stream, they produce music on the stream, they perform. Hannah does like DJ sets and things like that, and it's quite thriving, really, but it's flying under the radar at the moment. And like my greatest hope is that more Australian musicians consider the platform, because the thing about Twitch is you can make money from it. There's like a subscription service, like your viewers can subscribe to your channel, and that, like, you know, you get a monthly kind of figure or whatever, and they can donate money either directly or they can donate. Twitch has like an in-platform currency called bits, so they can donate bits to your channel. And obviously Twitch take a cut of these things, but you get, you know, a significant portion. And if they donate directly to your PayPal, Twitch don't take anything from that. So it started as like something to kind of fill the time during the pandemic, because I wasn't getting played on the radio at the time around when I started Twitch. A lot of the way that I grew my audience was through live shows, and then live shows were taken away. So I was like, shit, well, I'm not going to spend a whole year not growing my audience, because that's stupid. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this Twitch thing because Isolate was going off. And I was like, people are open to this, like to this thing. And I was aware of Twitch. I'd watched drag on Twitch for so long. Um, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start this thing. Who knows where it's going to go? I don't know what's going to happen. I can always just stop it if it's not working and if I don't like it, blah, blah, blah. So I started streaming in May last year. And honestly, it's been so wonderful. Like, in a way that I completely did not expect. Like, I was like, oh, I might make a little bit of money off this. Like, I'll, introduce my music to some new people. Like, that's kind of all I can really ask for from this platform. But it's been so fulfilling. Twitch ANZ have been incredibly good to me. They've, looked over my channel and given me advice, and I've kind of asked questions of them, and they've been extremely available to me. They featured my channel on the front page like multiple times, which means that like at one point on a feature stream, I had like over 1,000 viewers at once. And it's just like that kind of exposure is just so special. And you just can't really pay for that kind of thing. Like it was just really great. And it was around the time where it was for a single. I released my single Flesh, and it was obviously during the lockdown, so I couldn't do a show. But to stream, it was like the biggest show I've ever done from my bedroom.
Yeah,
because it was to 1,000 people. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, wow.
So not only have I like created this like nice little, modest, but still kind of slowly growing and steady kind of income stream for myself during a year where everything stopped. I've also created this amazing, really dedicated, beautiful community around my music. Like the majority of the people that came to my corner show were from Twitch.
Wow.
It was just like, it was remarkable because everyone was asking me like, Eilish, do you think it'll translate to real life ticket sales? Like, do you think it'll translate to real life fans? Like what are you, what are you doing? Like, I don't understand. I don't know what to make of this.
But it did, hey.
It just did. And I'm so excited about that. So it's a really great platform. I hope that I've been able to explain it properly. I probably have to edit my answer to that because it was
it was so good, so succinct, and
so long and convoluted. But basically, it was just like it was essentially like love Twitch, watched a lot of drag queens on there, decided to start it myself, learned everything that I needed to know about watching drag on Twitch, like how to create my own stream and how to foster a community and things like that. Funnily enough, like even though what I love to watch on Twitch isn't really music, it still translates over, like the skill set and the communication, the way of communication really translates, and you just learn so much. And now I have this great little community that I love, and honestly, like a nice little steadily increasing income stream. Awesome. So I would just like really, really recommend anyone just spend some time on Twitch. See if you like it. You don't have to stream or anything. Just like watch some people playing games, or like look up something that you're interested in on Twitch, and I guarantee you there will be something. Someone will be doing that thing. And it's it's a lot of fun. So definitely, if anything that I've said sounds curious to you or whatever, just look it up and see if you like it.
Oh, so good. And how often do you stream on there?
It kind of depends. Like during lockdown, I was streaming 4 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and the streams go for a long time. That is something that I will say. Mm-hmm. They go for at least 3 hours each. So you're working, but it's very fulfilling and it's super fun because people hang out and you have a chat and you have a laugh and you make music. Like a lot of the time I'm producing on the stream.
Oh, cool.
I'm sometimes like I perform a lot of my own music, like once a month. In fact, twice a month we do like a night where I just play all my own music, and then another performance night that we have is like I do some covers that I want to play. So yeah, during lockdown I was doing like 4 streams a week. Now it's down to maybe like 2 or 3 a week, but I like to be very consistent with my schedule because if you're not, people expect you to kind of be there at the same time each week. And I think in a way, as a streamer, you kind of owe it to your community to be reliable like that. So I think that's one important thing that I've kind of taken away from the experience, is that you have to be like, you can stream as much as you want, probably no less than 2 times a week, I would say, in my opinion. But like, regardless of how often you stream, just make sure it's consistent. Yeah.
Oh, such good inside advice for anyone who's looking to do some Twitch. Sounds like a very, very good idea. And I think the interface looks pretty lovely as well. You can do butterflies and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Nice. That's what we love to see. Gosh, this has got me very excited to see some stems and to go into this track in a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
But did you want to first say what it's about?
Yeah. So the song that we're going to look at today is called October December. And I went through a period of time where I was I was going through a heartache, and I was just so depressed, and the situation kind of unfolded that I believed that I would be able to meet up with this person that I was so enamored with, and that I would be able to get some form of closure in like a few months' time. It's a complicated story, so I won't tell you the whole thing, but basically that was like the crux of it. So I was obsessed with the passing of time, and it just felt like every day was so slow, and like every night I would kind of be like, oh, okay, one day down kind of thing. And all I wanted to do was just like skip over November, like the whole entire month, and just get straight to December, where I kind of saw this like shining light of closure, which spoiler alert, like never happened because closure is a myth. So yeah, it's basically a song just about like the worst kind of heartache you can imagine, and it's just so bad that you literally just want to fast forward time to a point where you think that it might be better, you know?
Oh, I so feel that listening to it, like that lyric about, just wanting to know whether they've gotten some sleep on a plane.
Yeah.
Like just kind of desperately. That just, yeah, I was walking down the street listening to that, and yeah, it really got me, I think.
Yeah.
Just like wanting to know those mundane details.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I feel very sad for the girl that wrote that song, or the girl like I was when I wrote that song, you know what I mean? Just like, oh sis,
what a time.
It's gonna get better.
Yeah, oh, that's good. I'm not sure if this happens to you, but sometimes I feel like if I write a song during like a time,
yeah,
it's like not super fun. Sometimes there's, you can almost create your own closure by kind of finishing the process of writing the song and
totally
producing it and kind of giving it that life that it almost kind of deserves.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, it was so therapeutic to write this song, for sure.
Oh, amazing. Well, shall we have a look at some stems to see how that translated into production stuff?
Let's do it. Now, I wish, like I said before, I really wish that I had the actual session, but due to a pretty severe swap over from my Mac to the world of PC, we're just looking at stems right now, which is a shame, but you can still see like little moments and things like that, and we can like isolate things. So,
and I suppose people can go to Twitch if they'd like to see you producing in a lot more detail.
Yes, thank you for the plug.
But you can get a taste now.
Yeah, exactly.
Get people hooked.
So is there anything in particular that you want to have a listen to, or would you just like me to kind of go through some of the stuff that I really like?
I'd be really curious to, if you wanted to start with like what, like where you started in the production process in terms of what were some of the first sounds that you kind of heard and you were like, yep, this is going to capture what I want to say.
Yeah, sure. So I think I've been working on this song since 2017. Which is a long time. It's the oldest one on the EP. And the more that I kind of worked, it was one of those ones where like it didn't really matter how long it took. It was just going to take the time that it took until it was like right to put out and right to kind of say, yes, this is finished. But I wrote this on piano, and this is why this is such a special song. This is why it's part of the Hospital EP, because the Hospital EP started out like we just kept calling it the piano EP. And so I really started literally just with piano, that like piano kind of hook that you hear at the beginning. Like this one, which you should be able to hear now.
Yeah, I can.
Yep. So it literally started like this. It was actually a lot more complicated of a part. I do have the lead vocal in here somewhere. There it is. Sleep on the plane. So it was honestly just this. Maybe. It was really just that. But and the piano part was a lot more complicated. I have a real issue because I'm a pianist. I have a real compulsion to fill a whole kind of song with just piano and voice, and then by the time it's over it feels like, oh my god, there's so much piano going on, I can't hear how the production would work here. So I had to really take back the piano. It was a lot more busy than it is now. I took it back, and that's the great thing about MIDI piano too. My favorite MIDI piano, by the way, is the Spitfire Labs soft piano. It's free, and that's what this is. And it's like, just sounds so beautiful. It's the best MIDI piano I've ever used, and I highly recommend it to everybody. But the great thing about using MIDI piano is that you can just kind of like take out extra notes and like build a skeleton of what you want the piano part to be. And then what I do is like play it back in the skeletal version so that you still get that like played feeling, which is hard to get via MIDI, but I think it works quite well here. I always knew that this song I always knew I wanted to have like a real climactic moment to this song, because it's like the bridge is quite full on in terms of like lyrical content. It kind of goes from this like yearning, gentle kind of like, oh man, I really wish that I knew what you were doing right now because I miss you a lot, to this like kind of hysterical, like, I hope when you go back to that park you think of me kind of thing. So I wanted to like highlight that change in hysteria levels, honestly, because when I wrote this song I really was kind of hysterical. And so the build up here took ages to get right. But the thing that I love about it the most is like the orchestra sounds. And this is yeah, so I'm a real sucker for sidechain because because it's just the best. And I wish that I had my proper session, because I could have shown you all the like individual little parts of that orchestra, because right now we're just looking at the mixed down stems. But basically I used a lot of the Spitfire Labs. I love Spitfire. Most of my like real sounding kind of orchestra, like instrument stuff is Spitfire. I like save up and like get it. This is, I'm pretty sure, the BBC Symphony Orchestra. A lot of it's that was a free plugin too. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't make really great music with free plugins, because you can. So I think I used a lot of the BBC Symphony Orchestra that I got for free for doing a Spitfire survey, I'm pretty sure. But I also used another great Spitfire plugin that I like is the there's one called British Drama Toolkit, which is like another orchestral plugin that I like to use. It's like a little bit too expressive for my taste sometimes, but which is why I really like the BBC Symphony Orchestra one. Like, it's way more simple, and you can get they have a really good trumpet sound. So I really like that one. for that. And I think most of this little like orchestral moment is that a lot of those like just individual like trumpet, flute, strings, just all kind of layered and like mixed down, and then all of it side chained, because I wanted to have that like while it was still like, I wanted to have like a bit of a electronic edge to this song, as well as like all the beautiful strings and movement and stuff like that. I still wanted it to feel a little bit edgy in terms of the production. So that's why I still have like the like this little kind of vocal thing here. If you can hear it. Oh no, it's not that. Yeah, that. Like that kind of like modern kind of like little like sprinkle on the top of like something that's otherwise really quite organic and textural, and like typically moving, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think
right.
makes it feel a little bit more ambiguous in terms of like genre, in terms of like I think Billie Eilish does this really well in like When the Party's Over. That's a really good example of like beautiful kind of orchestral stuff mixed with like a really, really modern contemporary kind of arrangement and production. So that's kind of what I was going for with this.
It's sorry to interrupt you there.
No, go.
It sounds like side chaining is a really important component to this. And I just wanted to check in for anyone who doesn't know what side chaining is already. And tell me if this is putting you on too much on the spot, but would you feel comfortable giving a bit of a layman's terms explanation of what side chaining is?
I mean, it would be very layman because I don't know how to explain it. But
the whoop, whoop, whoop.
well, yeah, it's essentially like what happens is you put a compressor on, say I put the compressor on like the orchestral stem. Mm-hmm. And I link that compressor to the kick. Usually side chain is like linked to the kick drum. And that's what gives you like that constant like whoop, 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 whoop feeling. And essentially like the compressor only works when the kick happens, when that happens. So like you see in the waveform, it kind of goes like kind of thing. And you can hear it as well. Like it's quite an obvious, I mean, I like to use it quite obviously, because I think it like really propels things forward, particularly in moments of like serious momentum, if that makes sense. So you can kind of hear like the kick in our little parallel drum mixed down stem. You can kind of hear the kick working, and how that feels in relation to the like relatively kind of not really heavily sidechained, but you can hear it in that like mixed down orchestra stem. And I just think it makes it feel just a little bit more like, I don't know, urgent, I think is the right word.
Yeah, that came into my brain as well. I feel like that's the vibe.
Yeah.
And Ableton's got an effect that you can just kind of drop on top of one of the tracks, right, in order to sidechain it, which is pretty easy.
Well, I normally do it. I mean, it's quite easy the way that I do it. Like, I just get a compressor. Like, if I was to like do it now, it's like you would go into plugins you go into audio effects, and then you go into compressor, and then you just like choose whatever compressor you want, and then it's literally like you click a button, and it says like sidechain. You click yes, please, and you like link it to the track that you want it to sidechain to, which is usually the kick.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's my sidechain tutorial.
Now everyone can have the urgent pop sound in all of their extremely emotional music, which is
everyone knows it's so funny because I was kind of doing sidechain because it's one of the things that I do all the time because I just love it. It's a bit of an addiction. I was doing it on Twitch the other day and I was explaining what I was doing as I was doing it, and people were kind of like, oh, I know that sound, that feeling. Now I know what it's called. Do you know what I mean? I think everyone knows what sidechain sounds like. It's just like a matter of, you know, and I think that's the case a lot of the time for a lot of production. Like everyone knows how something sounds and feels if you're a fan of music or if you're an artist or whatever. But it's all just a matter of like knowing how to do it and then knowing what it's called and then knowing how to do it, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome too. So even for people who might not want to get into production themselves, next time they hear a whoop, 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 whoop kind of sound, they can sound cool to their friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Sorry, so I interrupted your flow there. So what was going on for you after the orchestral sounds that came in?
Well, I think the whole point of this song is to like go on a bit of a journey with the person who's singing as they go through the like as they start in a very like calm and kind of wistful place on this journey. Like you can even kind of see it in these waveforms. It's like, yeah, chill, chill, chill. Whoa, okay, yep, that's happening. And then the rest of it is like, okay, we're back to kind of serene yearning rather than like hysterical emotional desperation kind of thing. So I guess like that's like the main journey that I was like that I had in mind. Like sometimes with songs you don't know, sometimes with songs it's like this is going to be pretty much the same the whole way through. A lot of the time with my music, I'm very dramatic. So I kind of like to have, like you can hear it in songs like Patterns and songs like Keep Up. Keep Up in particular is a song that I was very much like, I want this to feel one way and then to completely go a different way and just be like, whoa, and then like go back to the first place and then toy with like a third place. Like I want the waveform to reflect like a pretty crazy sonic journey. And while I don't think this is like a crazy sonic journey, I do love building an arc that is so dramatic that you can actually see it in the waveform of the song. You know what I mean? Like if you were to look at the waveform of this song kind of bounced out, you would be able to see like da 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 whoa, and then like back to normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think like I must be a visual person or something because like I really love bouncing out a song and like looking at the waveform and being like, that's such a like what a journey. I can like see that journey right in front of me and I know it's going to make an impact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really nice way to test dynamics as well, to just, you know, see what kind of drama is coming out in the actual waveform.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit unhinged, but like I feel like I just got done telling you that I used to make sound art. So I feel like, you know.
I love this picture. This is great. Are there any stems that you'd like to share that you haven't already shared?
I don't think so. I think my favorite, I mean, obviously, I'm such a sucker for like an orchestral plugin. Like people who actually play like violin, cello, trumpet, flute, whatever, they must hate me because I'm so obsessed. I'm just like, someone take it away from me. It's so dangerous how much I love building these orchestral worlds because I think because I play piano and because I did piano lessons for so long, I kind of know how to make that sound nice together. You know, I know how to like build a chord. I know how to like you know, do inversions. I know how to like add seconds and suspended things to make it sound really encapsulate kind of a feeling. I know how to do that, and I'm not afraid to do it.
You can and will do it.
Yeah, to the point where it's like, okay, Eilish, maybe close the BBC Symphony Orchestra plugin for like 5 minutes and see if you can like use a synth maybe. Like, but I can't.
Hearts, you know.
I'm so addicted to it's terrifying. I'm like so addicted to it, and you can hear it all in the hospital EP. Like I just love, and that's the amazing thing about MIDI too. It's like I don't need to go get like a full-on orchestra and pay heaps of money to like do that. I would love to do that one day. I would love to be able to access an actual orchestra or a string section or whatever, and write like a score and have it played, which is also something that I did at uni, which I think helps me arrange it now. But right now, when it's like, I don't have any money, like I had to get this plugin for free by doing a survey. Like, I think that gives you an indication of where I'm at, like financially. So, you know, I can just do it the way that I know how, looking at a piano keyboard, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that is like, embracing that too is all part of embracing like being a producer and like calling yourself one. Because it's like, if I back when I was making music at university and in high school and stuff like that, I would look at the stuff that I was doing, like, you know, figuring out how to sidechain without knowing what it was called, like building orchestral kind of moments with just a free plugin that I had, and like I would look at that and go like, oh my god, that's so ramshackle, that's so unprofessional, like I could never call myself a producer. But now I'm like, yeah, whatever, like I can make something really beautiful with my MIDI keyboard and a plugin that I got for free, and I'm going to call myself a producer because of that, you know? And it's like, obviously I have like more things in my skill set than that, but I think it's all about just like embracing the process, even if it may seem or look messy to you, and even to others, like, you know, who cares kind of thing. I think it's important to just be like, if the end result is really beautiful and you made it, then you're allowed to call yourself a producer. And even if it isn't beautiful, then like many of my things are not, like, still just do it. It's great.
Anyway. Yeah, that's really great. I think that it's really refreshing to hear that as well, because I think sometimes there's this kind of misconception that you need to have really expensive gear and like you have to reach some sort of threshold of like amount of money that you've thrown at like plugins and all kinds of fancy stuff before you call yourself a producer. And I feel like when I think about it, that, you know, produces or that creates barriers to access that are financial.
Oh, for sure. You know,
like,
yeah.
And who gets to claim that title? Like, you almost kind of have to pay for it, which sucks, you know?
Yes, so, that's such a good point. Like, I think, I mean, so much of the music industry is like classist, but I think that in particular is really, I really can't wait for the day where that is just completely torn down. I think we're seeing some of it now with things like my most used, like, you know, plugin whatever is Splice. Like, I use Splice so much, like all the time, and I pay like, I don't know, something crazy like $16 a month for it, and like I have so many credits, I would never use all of them. And I was just talking to Nina Geraci the other day when we were in a session, and she was like, hey, there's another thing that's just like Splice called Noise, and it's like almost the exact same. And I was like, amazing, I'm gonna get that too. And it's like, if you have access to those things, if you can pay $16 a month or whatever it is for Splice, like, you have access to so many like sounds and samples and things like that, and also, not to mention, there are so many free plugins. Like, I use a free plugin from Contact like constantly. Like, I don't have all this money to be spending on plugins all the time. Like, I'm just going to work with what I have and what I can afford. And that doesn't make me any less of a producer. And if you have less than I do, or if you have more, like, it doesn't equate to skill to have heaps of like sounds. In fact, sometimes I feel like if you have too many sounds, it makes the act of producing actually harder because you have too much choice. Yeah. And you get like, you know, bogged down by all this choice and like trying to find the perfect kick or the perfect snare. And it's like sometimes it's actually better for your skill to build that kick or snare from what you have, rather than like, you know, just trifling through all this stuff. But you know, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm being annoying, but
No, I think that makes perfect sense. Speaking of Nina Geraci, though, I was very fortunate to have a chat with her as well.
Oh, cool.
And now I've just realised we're going to have to release this episode after that happens.
Oh.
That's all right. But yeah, I think like when you were saying like building a kick sound, something that she was kind of walking me through was just like layering stuff, you know? And it's like, if you don't like this bass sound, try 6 different ones at the same time.
Totally.
And it just sounded amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like all kinds of strategies like that, just like bring them on.
Yeah. Oh, she's so amazing. I love her so
good.
much. She's so, in fact, talk about like Splice. I constantly use her sample pack on Splice like all the time
She has
in
a
my
sample pack on Splice.
Yeah. It's really good. It's really
oh my
good.
God, everyone needs to get onto that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I use it all the time.
So good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow, what a time. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm very, very excited about everything that you've shared with me so far. Before I ask you about like where people can find you, I thought I'd just ask quickly if there's any particular artists or mentors who have been really influential for you kind of along the way, particularly like women or gender diverse artists and mentors.
I think I've always like looked to my peers for a lot of guidance and learning, I suppose, and increasing like my skill set. And I like to think that kind of I can be that person to my peers as well. It's like an exchange of all of this stuff. My friend Alex Leahy has always been like a huge like guardian angel of mine. Like I adore her and I've learned so much from her. We were in a band together for a brief period. And like I've always learned so much about music from her, and it's been like I wrote a couple of songs with her and our friend Gab, Japanese Wallpaper, for my upcoming EP. And like learning from your friends is so special. Like having friends that you can learn from is so special to me. Friends that you admire like musically and artistically, I think is just such a special thing. And I'm so lucky to have them. I've learned a lot from Gab as well. Really incredible producer, an extremely generous person and very supportive. Sometimes it's hard for women to be in the room with a male producer one-on-one and feel like they can express themselves creatively without feeling, I don't know, sometimes you feel like you can't always say what you want to say, or you feel unsure of yourself or whatever. And I have never felt that way with Gab ever in my life. Both, you know, in the studio working with him, but also as like a friend of mine, and we've played in a band together and blah, blah, blah. And I think it's also really important, like when you get in the room with someone in that situation, that you feel like you can ask questions, because that's how you learn. And I've always felt like I could ask questions with him, and nothing was ever too stupid to ask, and he would always explain it like patiently and clearly and all that stuff. Somebody else who I think is also great is Becky Witton, who performs under the name Afa. And she is amazing because she is a producer, mixing engineer, and a mastering engineer, and an artist as well. So she is just unbelievable. She has such a brilliant ear. Like she's one of the best vocal producers I've ever had in my life. So trustworthy, and so like you can be as vulnerable as you want, and you know, she'll be there to guide you through and to get the best performance out of your voice and stuff like that. So, and she mixed the Hospital EP too, and she did a gorgeous job of it. So she's amazing. Like if you ever, and she also streams on Twitch too. So if you ever like are curious about her process, like definitely look her up, because she is just remarkable.
That's a great idea. And I'm imagining that some people listening to this might be kind of more in the mixing or mastering kind of stream. So it's good to have someone like that for them to check out.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Oh, so good. Well, you're amazing as well. Thank you
Oh,
so
thanks.
much for thanks for sharing all these things with me. Gosh, what
No
a time.
worries.
Um,
Yeah, sorry, I talked your ear off for like over an hour.
oh no, I love it. That's like literally what I'm here for.
Well,
So
that's good.
but in terms of Twitch, first of all, how do people find you like in general? And I'm particularly curious about the Twitch stuff in terms of where people can go.
Well, one of the great things about having a name like mine is that if you Google it, it's just only me. So
Amazing.
so honestly, you can find everything that you need to find of mine just by Google. If you want to find my Twitch channel, it's twitch.tv/Eilish Gilligan, or just Google Eilish Gilligan Twitch. It'll be there.
Awesome.
I also wrote a piece for The Guardian last year about streaming on Twitch and how I came across it and why it's been so great, which I think was probably a little bit more eloquent than what I actually said in our interview. So if you're like, what is this girl talking about? You can Google that as well, and that'll come up and you'll be like, oh, okay, I get it now. So yeah, just Google my name and you'll find me everywhere.
Amazing. Great. Well, I hope people fully intend to do that. It's a very good life choice. Thank you so much for your time, Eilish.
I'm so glad that we got to do it.